Pop Punk and Pizza podcast is presented by Pop Punk Takeout, which is a monthly subscription service that delivers merch from pop punk artists from all over the world directly to your door in a takeout box. Now, some of the previous boxes included exclusive merch from MXPX, Chris Swinney of Less Than Jake, Keep Flying, and so many others. So you can learn more and sign up for your very own Pop Punk Takeout box today at poppunktakeout.com, and also follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Pop Punk Takeout.
I'm going out, I gotta go. I'll bang a rang on the radio. So turn it up, I'm telling you. I think I'm ready for something new. Hey, hello, it's nice to meet ya. Hey, come in and have a slice of pizza. Hey, hello, it's nice to meet ya. Hey, come in and have a slice of pizza.
You're listening to Pop Punk and Pizza with Jacques Lamour.
Hey, what up? Welcome to Pop Punk and Pizza. It is so great to have you here. I hope you've been doing well and enjoying the final days of summer. Kind of makes me sad, but at the same time, I'm excited for fall things, like the pumpkin patch and all that fun stuff. So, got a great show for you today, as always. We're going to be talking to Chris Swinney of a band called Firesale, and he also has a podcast called That One Time on Tour, which you may have heard of because it's in the same genre, the same vein of Pop Punk and Pizza. We've interviewed a lot of the same people, not all of the same people, but some, and in my eyes, I kind of consider him to be in like the top 10 or top 20 of podcast in the pop punk scene genre, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to be talking with him in just a little bit, but first we are going to welcome a pop artist who is heavily influenced by pop punk. I'm super excited to have her on the show. Let's please give a nice warm welcome to MEGG. Hi, MEGG.
Hi.
Are you there? There we go. We before we went on, we had a little bit of a. I can hear you. Yeah, there's just a little bit of a delay once again. But we're gonna
can't get it right over here, can we?
we're gonna work through it. That's what we do. We just work through these things, right?
Perfect.
So you are out in. You're from California, based in the Los Angeles area, but right now you're actually in Nashville.
Yes. I'm on a published-based company, and we had, I think, writing the past few days, which is why I'm with you and I'm home, not home in my good area, unfortunately.
Gotcha. That's okay. I completely understand. We just got to do the best we can. So, I hope you're having a great time so far at this conference. It sounds really cool. Just a bunch of, is it like a bunch of women songwriters getting together and kind of hashing out ideas together? MEGG, are you still there? I think we may have lost MEGG once again. She's frozen on our screen, and I can't hear anything. Oh. MEGG, are you there?
On set today. their writing for sync and writing together. So it was a blast. It's been a blast.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Sorry, you've been like breaking up, and I'm just starting to hear you again. Can you hear me?
Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Great. I'm here as well. I'm thinking maybe this is all. Hoping that and
All right. And Meg,
See,
I don't know if you can hear.
you mean here? Oh my! I feel like
Yep, Meg, you're still breaking up pretty badly. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play a song, and
I can hear
then
ya.
oh, you can hear me? Okay. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna play one of your songs right now. And we're gonna play Shamu, and then if you're cool, let's switch over to a cell phone so we can hear you better. Is that cool? Like a cell phone call?
Perfect.
There's a private chat in this room. Just send me your number and then I'll give you a call in a couple
Perfect.
minutes. Awesome. Thank you, Meg.
Yep.
All right, so while Meg is doing that, she just released a brand new EP, which we're going to talk about more into detail. But her brand new EP is called Here for Now. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Shamu is the first song you hear on the EP. So let's go ahead and give that a listen, and then we'll bring Meg back on via phone call. So that way we can actually talk to her about all this awesome stuff she has going on.
She got an ass like a monster. She guzzles gas like a monster. She doesn't care if you wake up late, if you overate last night. I get in trouble, so I talk to her. We in a bubble, so I rock with her. She doesn't care if you look like shit, if you smell like it, oh well. And I know that you're tired, babe, 'cause I am too. Throw my shit in the backseat, I'll make some room. Hey, you, I'm talking to you. Get the fuck in my car. And if you're scared, I'll show you what we do. We put our middle fingers up and we ride in Shamu. Hey, you, I'm talking to you. It can get really hard.
So Meg with Shamu here on Pop Punk and Pizza podcast, and joining us once again, except unfortunately not via the live video chat. She's joining us via phone, so we can actually have a decent conversation. Meg, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Hey, it happens, you know. Like I said when we before we started, you just gotta roll through it. So Shamu, like when you're saying you're gonna ride on Shamu, we're talking like the killer whale Shamu, right?
No, actually, it's a Suburban that my family named Shamu when we first got it. Oddly enough.
I mean, it makes sense because a Suburban is huge, especially, I mean, when your family got a Suburban, it was probably an older Suburban, right?
Yeah. So in 2003, my mom got my dad. My dad had like the box Chevy Suburban from like, I don't know, 70s, 80s. And that thing had just run its course, but he was so attached to it. So my mom's like, let's get him like an upgraded. We'll still get, a Suburban, the whole nine. And so it was like a Christmas gift to him. And then he ended up passing away unexpectedly 7 months after that. And
oh, wow.
that, yeah. And
sorry
so
to hear that.
Oh, thanks, man. That Suburban, we just kind of, it ended up getting passed down to me because all my brothers had cars at the time, and I didn't, and my mom knew how close my dad and I were. And so when I started driving it around, I tend to name things. I don't know, I'm fucking weird that way. And
I think a lot of people do, right? A lot of people name their cars.
yeah?
Yeah, you're not the only one. I can't tell you how many, and I feel like I could be wrong. I know men name their cars, but I feel like there's more women I know that name their cars. And I don't mean that like in a negative way. It's just an observation,
Okay, well, that's fucking sick because it was one of those things where it was just this big black Suburban, and I was like platinum blonde at the time. It was just like this like white dot, just like driving around, this little blonde girl in the South Bay, and it was just like came this like beast. It was like, why are you driving that? And my mom was just like, well, this the family car. Meg's obsessed with it, and I don't know. It was just like, oh, I'm taking Shamu, and at the time, no one else like had a big car. And so it was like, if we're going on a road trip or we're going to a house party or wherever we're going, like, Meg, like, let's take Shamu. And then it just became this place where like I felt close to my dad and I could blast music and roll the windows down. It was just like this escape. And so my friend Matthias that I wrote it with had also experienced Shamu in college. I had Shamu for a while. And so he was like, yeah, dude, let's write a song about what it was like, just like rolling down the windows and like flipping off the world and fucking Shamu. And that's what we did.
I love it. I love it so much. I was like, I wonder how many people from like animal rights groups and stuff like came across your, the song Shamu, and they're like, oh, wait, we got to look into this and make sure like, they're not harming Shamu, and they're like, we got to check out this lyric video or this music video to make sure she's actually like not riding Shamu right now and like harming Shamu, So
like, it's funny you say that because I like hadn't put out music in like 4 years prior to Shamu. And my friend was like, you got to put like Google alerts. So like anytime anyone like writes about it or posts about it, it'll like notify us. So I was like, oh, okay. And I would constantly get, I guess there was like some Shamu drama or something at the time. I would constantly get Google like alerts, and I was like, holy shit, like Shamu's blowing up. People love the song. And it was never about my song.
Oh, man. I didn't know you could do that. A Google alert, like you can just say to, like, have Google alert you when someone posts an article or something along those lines?
I mean, unless I did it wrong, that's what I was told, is like you can put in a keyword and like give it some context. And anytime something is published on the good old web there, it notifies you. And so it's just like article of the whale.
That's right. I was going to say, how much has it been about the whale, the whale Shamu? I didn't know that was a thing. I'm like not the most tech savvy person. I try to be, but yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. I'm going to have to see if I can do that for the podcast because I'm kind of curious now. But I don't know. I see your story about Shamu though is so much better than the actual whale. So I'm actually like, I'm happy to hear that there's a big emotional attachment to the song, to the car, memories of your dad and all that. So why the gap in, releasing, 4 or 5 years not releasing music, and then finally it was like, well, here for now. I mean, is this the first EP under the name MEGG, or did you have other releases under MEGG?
Yes, there are other releases under MEGG. I've been on stage since I was 8, been in musical theater my whole life. I went to an arts high school, and then I was in like a girl group at the time. We had like a clothing line and like over 200 wet steel stores. I mean, it just felt like, I think about that now as an adult and I'm like, whoa. But it was a little like too poppy for me. And I was like, I'm not this pop. I don't like do choreographed dances. And so I dropped out and then went to USC for popular music performance and made my first solo EP there. And then when I was a senior, my friends and I started a pop punk band called Party for One. And then we released an EP through that band. And then I went on The Voice for a second, and then I came back and then released another MEGG EP. And then after that, like shortly after that, I ended up meeting this guy that I just fell head over heels in love with. And up until that point, that had kind of been my first, like, real adult relationship, And so I got really, really distracted, and I just kind of dove all the way in, and that became my life. We moved in together and we were just obsessed with each other. And I think there was always a piece of me that craved like just a normal life. Like you go to your job, you come home, you make dinner with your person, you go to sleep, and you do it all over again. And about halfway through, I just started realizing I was really, I was depressed. I wasn't satiating this like creative hunger, and I wasn't creating anything. I wasn't making anything. I wasn't performing. I was kind of muting and silencing this huge part of who I am. So I ended up moving out and started writing this EP in 2019, which was scary as fuck because I didn't know who I was anymore as an artist or really who I was as a person. I really lost myself in the whole thing, to be honest. And Shamu was the first song that I had written coming out of that little hiatus, for lack of a better word. And then all the songs after that just started fucking flying out. And my friend, I was asking her, we were going over titles for the thing, and she was like, I feel like you're just in this moment. You were like lost in that moment, and all of these songs were a moment in your time of like rediscovery and self-discovery. Like you were only here for now. And I was like, oh shit, like that's exactly how I feel about it. So hence the title is like, there's a lot of genres in there. There's a lot of different stories. And, I wrote Disney shit about being so in love. And then 2 months later wrote Change about falling out of love. It was like all of those moments I was in just for that moment. And it was like an exit along the journey, I guess.
It's definitely, you can hear all the different influences that you listen to in the EP Here for Now. 'Cause I know I was not expecting to hear like Change, like that that ballad-esque song. I wasn't expecting to hear that after, the first single I had heard, and then hearing like Shamu as well. It's just kind of like, party in your face, we're, fucking shit up and having fun kind of thing,
Totally.
like, and that's totally cool. Like, I'm not saying anything bad about it. So it just goes to show that you're extremely talented. And
Oh, thank you.
you're welcome. And I'm glad that you decided to pick it up again. Um, and that it seems like getting back into it, it's going really well for you. Um, we tried to touch on this earlier during our bad connection, but like right now you're in Nashville and you said it's called Sync, right?
Yeah, so I'm signing a publishing, a licensing, and syncing deal with this company that started in the South Bay and has moved their headquarters to Nashville. And so they got like a bunch of their writers and some of their producers together for a sync writing camp. Essentially, we wrote songs for sync and for placement. Kind of got to know each other, and it was crazy because I didn't really know what to expect. But essentially, they had like 3 studios set up, and they plopped a producer in each, and then 2 songwriters, or a songwriter and an artist, or 2 artists in a room, and just said, kind of go. And we had never met each other. Like everyone was kind of just like from different parts of the country, just kind of plopping in and making music together, and then having lunch outside, and then going back in and making music. And so today was the last day. So it was a really, really cool experience. I've never been a part of anything like it. So it was wild.
So what did you learn coming out of that from? Who did you, I don't know if you're able to say, but who did you end up working with?
I worked with, I actually don't know if I'm able to say either, but like, I don't know, I worked with one guy, Derek Hughes. He was the producer the first day, who I worked with.
Okay.
And it was just me and him. The second day I worked with the co-owner of the company, Michael Whitaker, and then another artist, William Davenport. And then the third day I worked with a writer, Nikki Williams, and then a producer named Sean Rogers. And like the first day we kind of wrote like a very Shamu-esque song, kind of like party, like let's fucking go. The second day I wrote like a ballad, very like emotional, like Hallmark type thing, you know?
Yes.
What are those? What's that channel with like all of those like movies that are just so dramatic?
Lifetime.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. And then after lunch, we ended up writing like a Charlie XCX, like Remy Wolf type song. And
Nice. I like Charlie XCX.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And then today we wrote like a kid's, like I could totally hear it in like Rocket Power or something, like a kid's pop punk song. And then the second half of the day we wrote a Christmas song.
Merry Christmas in September.
Yeah.
Well, of course,
Yeah,
if you think about it, it's really, it is already September, so it really isn't that far from now when you think about it that way.
Mm-mm.
But it sounds like they got a lot of work out of you in this span of a weekend. But what were some of the things you picked up or learned about with working with? Have you worked with a lot of different songwriters before?
So usually I tend to write with the same handful of people that I met at USC. Usually Matthias Mora, Rob Nagelhout, AJ Peacock, Caitlin Nody, Hunter Porter, like just like some of my closest friends from school. I've never really, I've done a blind write like maybe once or twice. So this, I think, answering your question, what I learned from it is like when to speak and like when to shut the fuck up, when to like fearfully just like throw your shit out, and when to,
it sounds intense when you put it that way, like.
Well, because there's so many different opinions and there's so many different brains. It's like, you can't be shy about throwing out an idea, and at the same token, you can't be super proud and be like, my idea is better than yours. Like, I think it was a really cool learning experience of like sheer and true collaboration from like all different types of styles, and knowing when your part is good and knowing when their part is better and being okay with that. So it was just, I don't know, man. It was, most of the time it's like production, I'll be writing and my producer's like creating the production at the same time. And some of these were like zero production and like a beat or like a chord and constructing it that way. I learned a lot. It was a little bit of a mind blow. It was fun.
Yeah, it sounds like I learned a lot, and I know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to and it doesn't matter like if you're at a conference like you're at, or if you're just like writing with some friends. It's like you got to know when to put your guard down and say, okay, you're right. Like yours is better, mine sucks. Like, okay, and I know exactly what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard
Go ahead.
it's hard to let those go sometimes because you might be really stoked on, like you said, on your idea. You're really excited about it, but then someone else has something better, or everyone's opinion about your part is not good. So,
And I think too, like going in with just no shit attached. Like, because it's not necessarily if someone's like, oh, what about this? And it's like, well, like, what about this? Like, it's not necessarily that someone's like, that idea fucking sucks. Like, it's just like,
right. It's
hey,
not, yeah.
But we're going to shimmy over to the left and maybe try this idea. Or you go down a rabbit hole of an idea for 15 minutes until finally you have to look at yourself and be like, okay, let's scrap this concept that I had. Like, does anyone else have something fresh? And it can be frustrating because you go down a rabbit hole for an idea and it seems like a waste of time, but it isn't. It's like you had to kind of go down there to realize it was just a pile of shit, to know that it's time to get out and go somewhere else.
Yeah. Sometimes what starts out as a good idea leads you to a dead end, which really sucks. But yeah, it's like you got to know when to abandon ship on those ideas.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Voice. When were you on The Voice, and how long were you on for? What was your experience like there?
Oh my God.
I have a friend who was on The Voice. Gosh, I always forget which season it was, but it's been quite a few years ago. I think it was like season 5. It's been a long time ago, and it was really interesting hearing his stories about, like the behind the scenes and all that stuff,
Yeah. So I'm sure you've had an earful, and I mean, talk about like legalities and contracts and shit that we signed. So I don't really know like what. I mean, it was like so long ago. I also just don't really care. But it was gnarly. So I was on season 7, and the behind the scenes like production part of it, leading up to it, is so much more than just like walking on the stage and singing for the judges and you go home. Like, you're out there, quarantined essentially for a month, like in a hotel or wherever you are, pre that blind, quote unquote, blind audition. So they're prepping you, they're going through your outfit, your, the song choice, and well, I wouldn't call it your choice, but
yeah, right.
Yeah, that was a very crazy part of the experience. The vocal coaches are top tier, absolutely unbelievably incredible. I definitely feel like was worth the whole experience. And then you meet really cool other creatives on the way. You share a room with someone you've never met in your life. Yeah, you're there. Some days you're sitting by the pool. Some days you're in hair and makeup. Some days you're rehearsing. And you get to rehearse with the full band. And you are like extras, and like, when people are walking up to the building and they're like, oh my God, Mom, like, we're here. You're like the random person in the corner, like pretending like you're doing something. So you have, shoot days and this and that. And then you go up and you sing for them and you get to chat with them. And so, yeah, it was cool. Like, Blake Shelton is the man. He was so nice.
Was he on, were you on his team then?
No, so I actually didn't get a chair turn.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. They did this whole 4-minute like segment on the episode, and then it was just very like anticlimactic. They like built you up and you're like, oh wow, they're telling this girl's story for 4.5 minutes. And then it was just like no chair turn. My mom just like so sad.
Yeah,
then,
what a letdown. I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, it was interesting because they basically were like, we wanted to see like a softer side to you. Like we wanted dynamics. Like this song was in your face, in your face, in your face. You've got this big giant voice, but we were really hoping to see like a softer, delicate side of it. So I was like, okay. So the producers were like, come back for the next season. I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. Came back for the next season, did a pink song. It was still a rock song, but like a softer one. And they were like, man, like we really missed that punk side of you. And I was like, okay, I'm done.
I think I would have said the same. Oh my God.
Just throw myself off a cliff. This is just a karaoke show, and I'm just gonna go do something else.
That's like stereotypical Hollywood. Like they tell you, like, okay, no, we want you to be like this, be like this, be like this, and you're like, okay, and then you go be like that. You come back, you deliver, and they're like, no, do this other thing, or you know what, we liked you better the other way, and it's like, you just can't, it's like I said, it's
exactly. I just stood on the stage and was just like, I literally just looked at the producers and I was like, okay, and I just like walked off because it's like,
yeah, I would have done the same thing. I would have been tired of that. My friend's experience though, I don't know, I don't know if this happened. I guess this could have happened to you, even though you didn't get super far along. But so they changed his song on him. Like, I don't know if it necessarily was at the last minute, but if it wasn't the last minute, it was pretty close to it. And I can't remember what the original song was, but they changed the song to "If I Were a Carpenter," and from what he tells me, he thinks the reason why they did that to him was to enhance, to tie his story better to the song, because apparently he just had mentioned once that his dad or his grandfather was a carpenter. And so they just like created this whole story, and that's like, that's why they made the change last minute. They're like, oh, if I were a carpenter, like, that's it, And
yeah.
And I was like, wow. It was like they just kind of like wrote your whole life, It was wild.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, that's like, I think that's what's frustrating, right? Is
Yep.
it's called The Voice, but like they like did that to your friend, and we're like, well, we're gonna give you your voice. We're gonna tell you what that is.
Yeah.
And we're gonna give you this song, and it's just kind of like, well,
Yeah. It was
no,
interesting.
that's how it was.
Yeah. But yeah, it was. I was fascinated to hear your end of it though, for sure. But getting back to present day, everyone needs to go buy or stream, listen to Here for Now. It's a great EP, well put together. I know you just had a release show for it. What else do you have planned in this crazy pandemic world we're still living in to, kind of celebrate and get the word out? I know you're still just trying to like get back into gear, but I wasn't sure what else you were doing to do that.
Yeah, so signing this publishing deal, actually tomorrow. That way I
Nice.
can
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. So hoping to get some of my stuff, in some placements and broaden the ears that are getting to hear it. I definitely want to do like an actual music video for Shamu with the real motherfucker.
You still have it?
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Oh yeah. Shamu was still alive and she's still kicking.
Man, forever.
And so,
never get rid of Shamu.
Yeah.
Never.
Dude, that's the plan. We're trying to hold on to it as long as we can. But anyway, so music video for Shamu, totally music video for I Feel Good. Gonna get some live videos of those going too. And then I did a Christmas like acoustic EP last year. So hoping to do like another little Christmas thing. And then like you said, just it's been a bit of a year and a half for me in my own personal life. So already started writing for the album, and I think the next thing I'm going to release will probably end up being an album unless I change my mind and want to just keep doing short EPs. Just getting back in the studio, and like you said, just getting back into the swing of it, just throwing myself back into it and doing the damn thing.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy that you're back in it because you're super talented, and it would be such a shame to see that, go to waste. So welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Of course. So I know Instagram, it's MEGG Music, and MEGG is with 2 G's. Where else can people find you online?
So YouTube, official MEGG Music, SoundCloud, official MEGG Music, Twitter, MEGG Music, TikTok, MEGG Music, Instagram, as you know. I don't know what else do people use. Facebook.
Yeah, I guess everything is just pretty much MEGG Music for the most part.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Well, Meg, have a safe travel whenever you are traveling back to California. Safe travels.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too, Meg.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, let's give another round of applause to Meg for. I forgot my I forgot my iPad isn't connected. I'll have to reconnect that. But thank you again to Meg for being patient with us and figuring out our technical difficulties and getting it straightened out so we could have a conversation with her on the phone. So her new EP, Here for Now, is streaming right now. So go stream it, go download it, all that fun stuff. Our next guest is a former member of the Ataris. Currently, he is the host of a podcast called That One Time on Tour, and he just started a new band out of this pandemic, which a lot of people have done. And so many great new bands have come out of this pandemic, so that's something we have to be grateful for. And one of those bands is Firesale. So let's. This is a pre-recorded conversation. I did this with him last night. So we first started off this conversation by actually talking about how weird it is to be a guest on someone else's podcast when you're on the other side of the mic. So Chris Swinney, everybody.
Kind of weird.
It is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anytime I'm on someone else's podcast, I'm like, man, this is so weird to be like, I guess it's a good thing though, because then you realize what it's like to be in the other person's shoes, right?
Yeah, it's strange. Like I've done a lot of these because of the new band, and I always ask people like, you don't want to talk to Matt or Tim, like they're in big bands.
Like a competition of some kind. You know
I think
what I
I'm
mean?
the only guy in the band that like is used to doing this. So everybody's like, oh, I don't know. You go do it. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
just give it to Chris,
Yeah.
whatever. Oh man. Well, this this is actually like a couple years in the making, I feel like you and I talking.
Yeah, we've been talking for quite a while. I did that little like video promo thing a while back where people from all over the world like you just sent in a little video, and you sent one in, and it probably sounded and looked the best out of all of the ones that were sent in.
I don't know about that, but I tried to make it look decent. You know, I think that was last year during the pandemic. Well, we're still in the pandemic. What am I talking about? But like at the start of it or whatever. But I know, sometime in the last couple of years we hooked up on Instagram, I think.
Yeah.
And we're always like commenting on each other's stuff. Let's
we've had a lot of the same guests on too. Like like when I had Fat Mike on, you had him on a couple weeks prior to that. Yeah. And I know how much of a big deal it was for me as well. It probably was for you too. And like, and I've met Mike, we're acquaintances. I won't say we're close, but like he kind of knew who I was. I of course know who he is. And I actually listened to your episode like 3 times, like psyching myself up to do my episode with Mike, because out of everyone I've ever had, I was nervous to talk to Chris from Propaganda, even though we kind of know each other. Yeah. I was super nervous to talk to Mike. It's just been this thing of where normally I'm cool. I don't care who's coming on the show. I'll just talk to them like they're my buddy, whatever.
Yeah.
Then there's these certain people that come on and it's like, man, if I suck, they might not ever want to come on again, or they might think, oh yeah, I did that show, he sucks. And it drives me crazy. I don't want to suck for those people, you know?
Yeah, I have the same problem, and I was super nervous for Fat Mike too. I mean, it's just, I've obviously for many reasons. We've, like you said, we've had a lot of the same people on our podcasts, and a lot of really well-known people.
Yeah.
Maybe similar to Mike's stature or a little lower, but like to me, like Fat Mike is a legend just because no matter who you are in the scene, no matter like how much you know about fat records or no effects or anything, like you know who Fat Mike is.
There are people that don't listen to what we like, you know, in the scene or whatever you want to call it, that know who he is. I mean,
exactly.
He did the punk voter thing. He was on all the talk shows. Like, people know who Fat Mike is. So yeah, like having him on the show was a bucket list thing for me. And when he finally said, yeah, I'll do it, I was just so nervous because, you know, no offense to Mike, but you never know what Mike you're going to get.
Yeah, that's what I had heard too. So that was another reason why I was nervous. I'm like, man, like, but you know, I'm like, okay, it should be okay. Like, he's sober at this moment.
Yeah.
So like, it should be good. And I had people reach out afterwards saying like, yeah, like that's one of the nicest interviews I've heard him do, like to where he's not, you know, kind of going whatever you want to call it. Crazy, being an asshole, whatever, you know, however you want to put it, you know. So like that was like comforting to hear that, you know. But yeah, I mean, you got to thank your publicist Melanie for that hookup. So
I actually got that through Vanessa at Fat.
Okay.
Because
Gotcha.
I had told her, like, I had Smelly on a while back.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that went awesome. And Smelly's the best dude ever. I recommend if you want to get him on, he's a good guest to have. Okay. But yeah, with Vanessa, I was just, every time we would talk, and I've had almost every fat band on my show. They should basically be paying me right now. But
yeah, why aren't they sponsoring your show yet?
I don't know. They sent a bunch of stuff for a contest one time, which was nice.
Well, that's cool.
But yeah, I mean, every email at the end, I would go, P.S. I want Mike. P.S. I want Mike. And then finally, when he, you know, he was sober and he was promoting the new record, she's like, hey man, if you want him, he'll do it. And I kind of freaked out, and there we go.
You're like, wow, it finally worked. Like, here
now I got to get Melvin and Hefe, and I'll have all of them.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can put like all the episodes together. It'd be like a well, not a trilogy, but you know, like a movie.
What would be a quadrilogy?
A quadrilogy. There you go, quadrilogy. Something like that. But anyway, so Chris, it's great to finally be able to talk to you and actually have you on the podcast. So besides, you know, that one time on tour, which is a great podcast, everyone should go listen to if you haven't already. You've got some really, I mean, you always have incredible guests on, whether people know who they are or not. I mean, you have Zach, is it Zach Wild coming up? That's incredible. Like,
well, dude, before we go on, it's a crazy story. So I never check my Twitter. I basically just use Twitter. Like, it's the last thing I use to promote the podcast. So at the end of the night, the episode's up, like, oh shit, I better share it on Twitter. I never ever check it any other day other than Thursday when I release an episode. And I had a message in there that had been sitting there for probably a month, and it was his publicist.
Oh my God.
She's like, you know, we like the show. We really want Zach to come on to talk about the new Black Label stuff. If you're interested, shoot me an email. And I sent her an email. I was like, is this for real? Like, you're actually like asking for Zach Wild to come on my show? And she's like, yeah, he really wants to do it. So we'll see. He was supposed to be on my buddy Dewey's on Peer Pleasure, and he like bailed like 3 times. So I hope it happens. I have, you know, my notes ready to go. It's supposed to happen on Friday, but if it doesn't happen now, it'll probably happen eventually. But it's set up. It's in the book. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, you know how it goes. Like, we all have busy lives, and sometimes certain people are just super hard to get a hold of. And I know I've had to reschedule with certain people like 3 or 4 times before it actually happens, you know?
Yeah.
So, so it's understandable, and it's just it's just the nature of the beast. To like, and I just honestly, I usually don't give up, even if it's a failed 4 times, I just keep trying because,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, life, like I said, life is busy, so we've all got, stuff going on.
I've been turned down 5 times by Henry Rollins, so we'll see if that ever happens.
See, I mean, you just got to keep plugging away. I mean, eventually you're going to have Henry Rollins on that one time on tour, and everyone's going to flip the fuck out. They're going to be like, what?
Well, I tell you, I've met him a couple times. I was in the Ataris, and we did that song Boys of Summer, and we changed Deadhead sticker to Black Flag sticker. So the first time I met him, I was kind of, hey, I'm in this group. We did this. And he'd heard the song. I was kind of using that to get my foot in the door. And the few other times I've met him, I've always emailed and like tried to keep in contact with him, just selfishly for me. He doesn't care. and I used to, every year I would invite him to Christmas at my parents' house. And every year he would reply and he would, I'm sorry, I can't make it. I'll be in Southeast Asia or I'll be in Australia. So he's a nice guy, man. He'll always get back to you. Not just me, anybody. If you email him, he'll email you back.
Yeah. Huh. That's awesome.
Someday he'll be on the show, and I can't wait to just ask him all kinds of stuff, man.
Yeah. Did you meet him at like a festival that the Ataris was playing?
I met him at a festival. I can't remember if it was the Ataris or another band I was playing in at the time, because I toured with a bunch of different bands back in the day.
Okay.
But then my bass player Brian and I, that used to be in the Ataris with me, we went and saw him in Cincinnati for one of his spoken word tours and got to hang out and talk to him. And it's just been different shows of his and then different like festivals and things I've been at. I've always made it a point to, if he's going to be in the same vicinity, I will do whatever I have to at least go, hey man, remember me? Let's talk for a second.
He's going to be like, oh no, it's that guy.
Well, that's the thing. He probably, if he remembers me at all, he thinks of me as that guy. So maybe he'll never do the show. I don't know.
I mean, we all know people that are like that to us.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately
you have to be that way to somebody else.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I imagine I'm that way for somebody. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm sure if I sat down for a couple minutes, I could be like, oh, I bet I'm that way for like this person or this person. But yeah, it's just, you try not to, but sometimes it just happens.
I mean, I'll tell you, as far as the podcast, I know we're going to talk about a lot of other stuff, but as far as the podcast goes, I've knocked a couple bucket list things off. Fat Mike definitely was a bucket list. I'm a huge Silverchair fan. I grew up in the 90s. So like the grunge stuff to me is just as cool as the punk stuff that I grew up listening to. And I had Ben Gillies, the drummer of Silverchair, on. And I've talked a couple of times with the manager of Daniel, their singer, but he doesn't do a lot of press. He hasn't said no, but he hasn't said yes yet.
Yeah.
And then Henry Rollins, the other one. And then the top of my mountain, and some people make fun of this, I don't care, is Dave Grohl. I had
Why would anyone make fun of you for that? Like,
there's a lot of these like true people in the punk rock world that like give him shit or whatever. I'll tell you, man, I was on tour one time in Austin, Texas. He was there. I don't know why he was there, but he was at the venue at the show I was playing. And I got to sit down and talk to him for like 20 minutes. And he was the nicest human being that I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Not a lot of people would give me shit, but there's just people that kind of don't take them seriously. But I mean, come on. There's a member of the Germs in that band, a member of No Use for a Name, and a member of Scream and Nirvana. Like, it's the best band going right now.
You can't beat it. Like, when I think of a modern rock band, I think of the Foo Fighters. Like, they're just like, they're a rock band staple at this point, because they're not, you can't put them in that whole like active rock category. They're not alternative like 21 Pilots, so it's like they are a rock band, like modern rock.
I kind of feel like, as far as bands that can, sell out stadiums or whatever, it's kind of them and Green Day. That's kind of it.
There's not many.
The Offspring used to be up there, and I love those guys. I'll always be a fan of the Offspring, but when you see their tour dates, they're not playing the Enormo Dome down the street from your house. They're playing like a normal sized big place, you know? So yeah, when you think about that, it's kind of weird. Is there ever going to be another rock band? And when I say that, I mean, I know Radiohead can sell out stadiums. I know that Muse can sell out places like that. I'm talking like in that vein of where there's a little punk rock, there's a little classic rock, there's a lot of modern rock. is there going to be another band like that that can get to that level? Or now with streaming and everything, are rock stars kind of dead? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's something I often think about too, is there going to be anyone else to, I mean, there has to be, to someone to have that stature and that becoming that staple, that household name, so to speak.
And I take Metallica out of that because they're not a rock band. They're like, they're their own thing.
They're a hard rock or metal.
I mean, it's in the name.
Yeah, right. It's in the name, but yeah, they're not a rock band. Some people, when you call Metallica a metal band, they're like, they're not metal. And it's like, well, technically they are. It's just not the heaviest metal that you could possibly
When you've
think
been
of.
around for 40 years, I mean, you're going to go through some changes. I mean, even the Foo Fighters, if you go back and listen to the first couple records, it's still rock and roll, but they've matured and changed. And, their new record, they've got like gospel stuff on there. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think bands that stay playing the same thing forever are kind of boring. Like, I've never been a Slayer fan because every record sounds like Slayer, which is a good thing. But then again, there's not a lot of growth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Even
with
if
that.
it's bad, like Saint Anger by Metallica is horrible. But I feel like they had to do that to get to these newer records that are decent,
Yeah, I mean, every band is well, not every band, but when a band tries something new, I feel like you can't be too hard on them about it. They're human beings after all.
I always used to tell people too, it's like you've got your whole life to write your first record, and then you've got 6 months to write your next one.
Yep.
I mean,
absolutely.
It's a little different.
Yeah, and the pressure is on, man.
Yeah.
Especially if the first one was such a big success.
Yeah.
I can't imagine living with that stress. Like I often think of Green Day selling 10 million copies of Dookie, and then it's like, okay, guys,
let's go write some songs.
Yeah, let's do it again. I'd be like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
I'd be like, forget it. I'd be like, I can't do this. But speaking of bands, though, like, I mean, how did when were you in the Ataris, and how long was that for? I'm not really sure, because I know the Ataris have had a lot of members.
Dude, I was like the
over
fifth
the
guitarist.
years.
Yeah, like
Okay.
I claim it because any bit of name recognition in this industry is going to maybe help you get a couple people to turn around.
Right.
But like, I joined that band like 2007, 2008, which was a year or 2 or 3 removed from the big record.
Yeah.
And I was in the band for 3 or 4 years and did a lot of touring and had a lot of fun, helped demo a lot of the stuff that is still not out yet. We had a record we were going to record and do everything. And it just there was no label at the time. There were labels interested. And for one reason or another, we just toured. And cause that's how you make your money,
Right. Yeah.
And, but yeah, being in that band was amazing. And, I didn't leave on bad terms or anything. And Chris Rowe and I are still really good friends. He posts Metallica links on my page on Facebook all the time because we both are old school metal guys.
Are you guys still relatively close to each other, or
he's from Indiana,
right?
Which is where I live and where I used to live when I was in the Ataris. Then I moved around a lot. But he actually, I believe he's in Arizona now. He's kind of floated back and forth. For most of the pandemic, he was in Arizona. He was in California for a while, a year or 2 ago, but now I think he's back like in the Phoenix area.
Okay, gotcha. Because you're in the Muncie area.
Yeah, Ball
right?
State University. We're about an hour north of Indianapolis.
Okay, yeah, I haven't been to Muncie in. God, I was probably like a senior in high school the last time I was in Muncie.
There's no reason to really come here at all.
Well, I mean, the music scene decent or not anymore, or it used to be?
I will say, growing up around here, because I grew up in a little town called Upland, which is like, I mean, in California they say Upland, but in Indiana it's Upland. That's
right.
If you live there or you're from here, you know what it's called. And it's about probably a half hour north of here. But we used to come over to Muncie all the time because of the music scene. There's a college here.
Yeah.
And there used to be so many good metal bands, so many good punk bands. There were like some reggae bands, like there were ska bands, like you name it. There was a decent band here. And there were a bunch of venues back in the day. Since I've moved back, which I moved back here from the Gulf Coast in 2017, There are a couple venues, but I don't really see the kind of presence of a music scene that I used to see. And I'm like 8 years removed because I moved away, back in the late before 2010. And then I just moved back a couple years ago. So growing up around here, there was a wonderful scene. Now I couldn't really tell you. I'm kind of removed from it,
Yeah. Is Be Here Now still there?
Be Here Now is when I was growing up, that was called Headliners.
Okay.
And then it was called the Speakeasy. And then it became Be Here Now, and it's been Be Here Now for over a decade. So yeah,
I was gonna say quite a long time.
They were one of the first places in this whole area to kind of open back up and be like, hey, we're gonna have a band play. And I've not been to a show there for quite a while. I don't know really how they're doing during this whole COVID thing, but yeah, if you want to go see live music in Muncie and you don't want to see like a band playing Leonard Skinner, that's where you go.
Yeah, there's only so many options, right? But I remember like Muncie having like a pretty cool looking like downtown.
There's a really cool looking downtown. I used to teach guitar down there. There's a music store called Muncie Music Center. After the pandemic hit, and I didn't really teach for like 8 months, they have really small teaching studios. Mm-hmm. So the health department when everything opened back up, they still wouldn't let you do lessons because you can't socially distance. So I opened up my own place on the other side of town called Midwest Music Mentors. And I'm teaching there now. It's in person and I'm doing a couple things online, but it's slow to come back. At one point I had 80 students a week, and now I think I'm around like 35, which is good for any normal guitar teacher, but I was like, it's my gig, like it's
I was
my
gonna
main
say,
thing.
How the hell do you wrangle 80 kids in a week?
Well, like, 80 kids a week, they're half-hour lessons, so that's 40 hours a week.
Yeah, I don't know. That just sounds like a lot. That's all I just think.
It is a lot. Like it's a lot more. It's easier on my brain doing 35, but I want to get back to what I was post-pandemic, because I mean that's my job. It's I'm self-employed. I'm kind of one of those gig workers, like a lot of the bands are.
Yeah.
And it's slow to come back. Hopefully people are getting vaccinated and stuff, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I hope. Well, fingers crossed for you, man. I hope it goes back to back to 80 where you want it. So
maybe like 60 or 70.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair, considering you've got that One Time on Tour podcast and Firesale now as well. So how did Firesale come together?
Firesale is weird. Ever since I started like getting, I guess bigger is a weird name, but like bigger guests on the show that I was friends with or that I was becoming friends with, I had this idea that, I'm going to write some songs and get friends to play on the songs and then release this thing on the podcast and see if people like it. Maybe do like a charity thing, whatever. It was just, I've been out of that scene for so long, other than just interviewing people and talking to people.
Yeah.
And I write music and I hadn't really written anything in about a decade. And I had a couple little riffs and it's kind of messing around. And the way that it started, like the humble beginnings, was that I wrote a song one night. I programmed all the drums, did the bass, did everything. And I had this idea for a contest on the podcast where I'm going to put up this link to this instrumental song. You record vocals to it, send it back to me, and like the top 5 versions get played on the podcast. And I'll promote your band or your business or whatever.
Yeah.
And like 40 people did it.
Wow.
Which blew me away.
Yeah, that's badass. I don't remember if I caught that or not. I feel like I didn't catch that contest, but that's a really good idea.
Yeah, you had to like basically on the Instagram post and the Facebook post, you had to email me and tell me you wanted the track. I'll send you the track. So yeah, like literally like 40 people from all over the world did it or asked for it. Probably like 32 people sent the track back. And there wasn't really any bad ones. Everybody was pretty good singers. Some of the recordings left a little bit to be desired because maybe they didn't have a nice setup.
Sure.
And I played a couple on the show and it was like this really cool thing. And this one guy that I'd actually met, his band had sponsored a couple episodes. His name is Pedro from Richmond, Virginia. He plays in a band called Amberetta, which is an amazing punk band.
I was just listening to the song that you premiered on the podcast.
Yeah. And his other band, Shot Clock, they had they had sponsored an episode. So I was familiar with Pedro and we talked a lot and I'm a fan of Amberetta from back in the day, and he was in another band called Fun Size that was like signed to a major, and I liked that band a lot.
I think I remember that band.
And
sounds
so
familiar.
We got to talking, and he's like, "Hey, I recorded vocals on that track. I'm going to send it to you." And I liked it so much. He did such a great job that I said, "Hey, do you want to like start this little project and we'll actually give it a name and like put it out?" And he said, "Yeah." And we called it Southern Gothic. We only had one song, and we put it up on the streaming sites, and people kind of dug it. There was a nice response, but then it just kind of died out because I didn't have any other songs ready to go, you know? So then fast forward maybe 6 months, and this is all during the pandemic. So
yeah,
fast forward maybe 4 to 6 months, I was bored one night and I wrote a couple songs that I really, really thought were good. But I mean, you always think your own stuff's good. I'm not a good editor. So I was like, oh yeah, I think this is good, but it probably sucks.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And so the whole idea was I wanted to get a real drummer to play on it. I didn't have a band at all. It was just me.
Okay.
And I hit up my buddy Tucker from Thursday and said, "Hey, will you play on these tracks?" He's like, "Yeah, man, totally." So I sent him the tracks, and my buddy Brian Churlo, who was helping me like mix and produce stuff, he lives out in Jersey, which is where Tucker's at. And they went into the studio and cut drums for the 2 songs. And basically what happened after that was I had these songs. I had like a product, like somebody played drums. They're not just fake triggered drums. And I didn't know what to do. So I was like, man, I need somebody to play bass. I'm not a good bass player. And I had just kind of reconnected with Matt Riddle from No Use for a Name and Face to Face. He was on the show and we'd met back in the 90s. He doesn't remember it, but we did.
I'm telling you, we met.
Yeah. So I texted Matt and I was like, "Hey man, I wrote some songs. I got a drummer to play on them. I think they're pretty cool. Maybe check them out and let me know what you think about them." I didn't even ask him to play bass. He sent back bass tracks.
Just like here, it's like,
yeah,
maybe he gets that all the time. So he like
he
knew.
doesn't. He should get it all the time, but no, he doesn't. He doesn't at all. So, but here's the thing. So then I had, one of my favorite bass players of all time played on 2 songs that I wrote. And then I was getting excited. I'm like, wow, this could be cool. I still didn't have a singer, still didn't know what I was going to do. So before anything else, Brian, who was like kind of helping me, and Brian's, won awards for like working with Justin Bieber and Paramore and all this crazy shit.
God, that's nuts.
And he was doing all this for free because we're bros and it's the pandemic and he was bored, So every once in a while I'm sending him stuff and he's tweaking it and doing whatever. But so basically he said, "Hey man, you need to play some more guitar on these songs. Like they're good, but I think there needs to be some more layers, And I was like, "Man, I'd like to do that, but I'd also like to find someone else to play on it." And that's when I hit up Tim from Protest the Hero, who's a buddy of mine. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'll play piano on it too." And I'm like, "Hell yeah, dude, go for it." So then I'm like, I've got Matt's involved, Tucker's involved. Well, once we got everything on the song, except for the vocals, the drums that Tucker cut, they were amazing, but they were strictly the way that I program drums. He didn't really throw himself into it. He didn't have the time in the studio to really, kind of inject that Tucker feel. It was just, I sent him these raw drums that I programmed. He played that.
Yeah.
So, my producer, Brian, was like, "Hey, I know this guy named Will. He's a session guy. He can cut drums for us. Maybe it'll be a little bit more exciting since you're not a drummer and Tucker just played what you put down." And Tucker was cool with that. And he's never really been in Firesale. He's a buddy and he was helping me out to get the demos going.
Sure.
A lot of people still post pictures and there's like this promo picture with Tucker in it. And I'm like, he's not in the band. So this guy, Will Ferguson, great guy, great drummer. He cut drums on the 2 songs. And so then I'm like, okay, they're pretty much done, but they're instrumental. But they're split up into like an intro and a verse and a pre-chorus. Like they're songs, there's just no vocals. And that's when I hit up Pedro, who was the guy that did that project with me on the podcast. And I sent it to him and he's like, "Dude, this is great. Hell yeah." And he recorded the stuff. And by that time, like Matt had said, "Hey, if this is like a band, I'm down." And Tim's like, "I'm down to do a band." So everybody kind of it became less of a project and more of like, wow, we're really going to do this. And then I was posting some stuff on, I know this is a long-winded story, but
no, it's fine. I'm very fascinated by it.
I'm not used to talking this much. You know what I mean?
Right. I know. I feel the same way. Like when I talk for 10 minutes, when it's just me, I'm like, wow,
it's weird.
It's too much. It's like, yeah, it is.
I'm used to just going, yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So we decided it was kind of a band. I had just had Sam from Get Dead on the show for like the second time, and they had that great new record that came out, Dancing with the Curse. And there's a song on there called Firesale. And when I was listening to it one night, and I went, wow, that's a really cool name for a band, but I bet there's a million bands named that.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
there was one DJ who hadn't done anything since like 2004, and there was one band of high school kids that hadn't done anything since 2003.
Were they the ones in Iowa or something? I thought
Maybe it was 2008 or something. Yeah, there was something in Iowa. These kids, they were like, Firesale making a name for themselves. So I saw that too that night when I was looking.
Yeah.
And then like at Firesale and firesale.com, it's like some clothing company or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I think I can get away with this. And naming a band is the hardest thing in the world.
It certainly is. Yeah.
I sent the name to all the guys. I said, hey, I think it's available. We should grab it if you want. Everybody was on board. It sounded kind of dark, but it's kind of stupid too, And basically what happened after that was I'd made a bunch of posts just telling people what I was up to, and I can't wait to share this new project. And then labels started hitting me up wanting to hear it. And there were 4 or 5 labels that were down to sign us, and they all wanted to do full-length records. And at that point, we only had like 3 songs. And so Spam Records out of Austria, which, they've worked with Pulley and Yotam from Useless ID and Frenzel Rom and like all these great bands. They were like, we want to sign you and we want to put out a full length. And I said, listen, I really want to do a 7-inch single because I'd like to introduce the band to people and not just go, hey, here's 13 songs from a band you never heard of, but you've probably heard of our other bands.
Yeah.
I thought it was a better idea to like test the waters, just put out a little single and see. And they were like, hey, whatever you want to do, we'll change the contract. I'm like, cool. So we went with Spam, and since then it's been really cool, man. We've had a really good response with the 2 singles we've put out. I'm looking at my little whiteboard right now. We have 15 other songs for the full length that we're working on, and they're in varying degrees of like completion right now.
Okay.
But none of us have ever been in the same room after we started this band. We record everything remotely, man. Right. And we have a new drummer, Paul Williams, too. He's from a great band called Making Friends. And he's an actual, he's in the band now. And he lives in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is about an hour and a half north of me.
I was going to say, I've got someone in your state. That's good.
Well, like Paul was originally going to kind of be the guy anyway. I've not really talked about this on a podcast, but what happened is that, when I asked him, hey, do you want to be in Firesale? We didn't really know what was going to happen. And it was just a weird situation to where we got this other guy that was going to cut everything. And then I thought maybe he would be in the band, but he was more of a session guy. And finally it worked out and Paul joined the band, and he's cutting the drums for the full length.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad it finally, the stars kind of aligned,
And at some point we'll all be in the same room together, I hope.
Well, hopefully. I mean, you got to play at least one show together at some point, right? I mean,
we it's funny because we've had a lot of like not super like offers, but like a lot of interest from like going to Europe and going to South America and Australia, Japan, all these places. And I just think it would be hilarious if that works out, and the first time that we actually are in a room together is like the night we have to play a show in another country.
Right? You're like in Japan.
Yeah.
About to play this show, and like you've never actually all.
I'm like, we're going to have to get in the hotel room and grab the instruments, and like, because even in the Ataris, like sometimes we'd bust out songs we hadn't played in a long time, and you have to kind of relearn the stuff, Right. We'd be in like the hotel room before the show, before sound check, like with no amps, just going through, and our drummer was like playing on a pillow, like just trying to learn the parts back,
I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah. So,
that's awesome, man. So the 7-inch is it out yet, or is it still on pre-sale? I can't remember.
The 7-inch. Okay. So it was kind of weird because it was supposed to be out a long time ago, but what happened is with COVID, the pressing plants are like backed up, man.
Yes, they are.
Like they even told us, like, the other day when we found out that we finally got the stampers are done and the test pressings are getting made for the 7-inch, like pre-sale's been up for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks or something like that. And it's selling pretty well, but they were like, on the website, like, hey, if you pre-sale, it might not get to you for like 8 weeks because the thing is they make the stampers, they send you the test pressings, you approve the test pressings, and then it only takes a week or so to cut the record. Like the production of it is all the pre-production of actually having the lacquer cut and everything. So it's on schedule now. The stampers are done right now. They're saying it should ship sometime at the end of the month or right there at the beginning of October. So, but yeah, it's been a little bit crazy. Our representative at the label was like, when are you guys going to be done with the full length? And I said, I don't know, January, February. And he's like, well, if you want it to come out next year, it needs to be soon.
Oh, damn.
Because the pressing plants, they're like, if you bring them a new project, they're like, oh yeah, that'll be 9 to 10 months. Like, it's crazy.
Wow. I think it's just with COVID and then with vinyl being so popular.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think everyone's just, with the pandemic, they're like, oh, we'll just release new music. And
well, and there's actually been quite a lot of new labels pop up during the pandemic because people had to do something. So yeah, the plants are just swamped with projects, whereas before the pandemic, it might have only been a couple month process. Now it's like at least 6 months, if not more,
Yeah. And not even talking about all the new releases, all the re-releases that are happening. So-and-so is putting out their record from 25 years ago on special blue vinyl, and like this, there's only going to be, 100 of them or whatever it is, so it's like, there's all those, and I'm not making fun of them. It's just there's a billion of those. You see them all the time. All those
people can't
reissues.
tour, so they're trying to think of what can we do to be special to maybe make a little bit of money while also, releasing something we love. Tons of reissues, and yeah, man. I mean, I don't think if the pandemic would have hit, I would be releasing music. I hadn't done it in years, so I tell people when they ask about this band, like, yeah, it's fun and I'm so excited. And the guys in the band, like, I love them and admire them so much. I love what they do on all their past stuff and what they're doing now on this stuff. But if the pandemic wouldn't have hit, it wouldn't have happened. We were born out of necessity because we have nothing going on, so let's write some music and let's get together. Like, I don't think Matt Riddle or Tim or any of those guys, if there was just normal life going on, would go, oh yeah, let me sit here for 2 or 3 days and cut these songs. Like, I don't think they would have done it.
Probably not. Yeah, they would probably
friends or no friends. I mean, people have lives,
Right, exactly, and they might have been on the road at that point, or doing whatever else they were doing at the time. So I'm glad it all worked out and that Firesale was created. So,
we're really excited, man. And like, people ask all the time, is this like a band or is it just a project? Like, we're going to do our best to make it a band. We are all older than most people in punk bands. so I mean, we've all got like kids and jobs, and right now it's the most stress-free band I've ever been in, and we want to keep it that way. And yeah, we want to play shows, we want to do the whole thing, but we also don't have to depend on this band to make a living.
Right.
So we're going to keep it fun. We're going to keep churning out songs, and we hope people like it, but honestly, we're doing it because we like doing it. The love of the music,
And that's the best way to be in a band, right? I mean, it's just to have fun and enjoy yourselves. That's really what it comes back to, what it's all about.
And that's the thing, like the whole artistic kind of outlet. I kind of felt that way when I started the podcast because I felt disconnected from the scene that I loved. And when I started doing the podcast, even though I'm not playing guitar and stuff, I was doing goofy segments and I was like meeting new bands and telling stories about my dad and like all this weird stuff. And it felt kind of like having a band. Like, it felt cathartic and it felt creative. So, parlaying that into actually writing and releasing music again, it's kind of crazy, man. Like, I feel pretty fulfilled as far as the artistic side of what I'm trying to do,
Yeah, you're giving me hope for myself, because that's honestly, that's why I started Pop Punk and Pizza, was to stay connected to the scene that I was playing in, but I was no longer playing in anymore. So I started the podcast, and it's been like 6 years since I've released any original music. So, I guess I'm getting close to, you said 10 for yourself. So I guess I'm starting to get to get there myself,
You always, not to keep going back to Metallica, but I always kind of bring this up. Like I remember there was this interview with James one time, and the interviewer was like, "Why do you keep writing and releasing music? You're worth $400 million." And he's like, "'Cause I'm a musician." He's like, "I did this when I used to sleep in, a camper and eat ramen noodles." He goes, "I'm going to do it if I'm a millionaire." He's like, "It's just something that's in you." And that's the thing. Like I kind of had to get that back. Like I'd missed it for so long. And the feeling, when I finish a song or I get a guitar thing right or whatever, it's that old school feeling of playing music. And it means so much to me and the other guys. And a lot of the other guys had active bands already. So, I mean, they never lost that, but just the whole idea of creating music with your friends, and then people are actually digging it. That's an added bonus. Like if they don't like it, cool. I'm kind of doing it because I want to write music, but the fact that people are digging it is really, really cool. And we appreciate everybody listening to it.
Yeah. That's what it's first and foremost all about, right? You're doing it for yourself, and and then if people like it, then awesome, so.
And I mean, getting people to check it out has been kind of maybe easier than a lot of other bands, because everybody in the band has kind of had other bands that have had some success, and so if that gets people's foot in the door, that's really, really cool. But if we had really shitty music and it was, hey, the guy that was in the Ataris and No Use for a Name and Protest the Hero, and then they came and listened to the really shitty music, they're not going to stick around,
No. Well, and you wouldn't have the record deal either, so no one would want to have their name attached to the band, you know. So
it's been a cool ride, man. Like if you would have told me in my early 40s I was going to release another record, I would have asked you what kind of drugs you're on.
Well, good for you, man. I'm happy for you, Chris. That's awesome. And I can't wait to hear the whole thing. The singles are great. Everyone needs to check those out. They're available wherever you listen to music. Yeah. Where can people find Firesale online?
Well, all of the socials, it's just at Firesale is a band. We thought that was kind of creative and cool. And if you want to get any of the links, you want to order, we still have pre-sale bundles with shirts and hoodies and stickers and whatever with the record. And I think we're the only place in North America you can get the red blood splatter variant. You can go to firesaleisaband.com. And for anything else, you can just go to the SBAM website, which is like sbam.rocks.
Awesome. Cool. And then, of course, that One Time on Tour podcast is what? TOTOT?
Yeah, it's at TOTOT podcast or TOTOTpodcast.com. It's got all the show notes and all the links for everything. And I've been a little bit less consistent as of late. I went on a big vacation and took July off because I hadn't had an actual break for only like a week or so since I started back in 2018. And so I took a little summer break and I've gotten back into it. But I tell you, man, it's when you take that much time off and you don't have to stay up late and edit and do all this crazy stuff, then you have to jump back into it and your kid starts kindergarten. I'm slowly but surely adjusting to my new schedule so I can get episodes out and people don't get pissed at me. So
yeah, I hear you, man. I'm trying to juggle, the same things. I've got another podcast besides this. I got a full-time job.
Yeah.
Family life. My son started preschool, which is not as, elaborate as kindergarten, but it's just like, you're trying to juggle all these crazy things. So
it's tough because during the pandemic, it's like, oh, I'm not really working and I can do the podcast whenever I want. And I was doing 8 to 10 interviews a week and my kid wasn't in school. And now it's like, I have 30 students a week. I have the podcast. I have the band. I'm doing other podcasts for the band. My kid's in kindergarten. My daughter is 4 and she's going to be in preschool. So it went from like the pandemic. I had so much free time I didn't know what to do with to now I can't even find a spare minute to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for spending some of your time with
Definitely, man. I love your show. And what I tell people all the time, I've noticed in the podcasting world that there's like this weird competition attitude sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I just feel like we should all be friends because we're all doing the same thing, and everybody should help each other out. And I listen to your show. I listen to Dewey's show. I like, if you like music, listen to every fucking podcast out there. It doesn't matter. I don't understand the competition aspect of it.
I don't either. I've definitely, luckily I haven't come across that too much, mostly everyone's been pretty cool, but yeah, when I do come across it, I'm like, what's the big deal? And maybe I don't notice it as much because I come from the radio world.
Yeah.
And in the radio world, it's actually a lot worse. So
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
It's like, and even then I'm like, what gives, So
I've just had some like different people that follow my show on Instagram or whatever. I'll post about a guest that I'm getting ready to speak to, and they'll send me a message and like in this underhanded compliment, like, wow, that's really cool. How the fuck did you book that? Like, come on, dude, like work and you'll get it. Like, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I love podcasting. I love music. To me, they're kind of one and the same. I even use my show to promote the new Firesale stuff as much as I could,
Yeah, of course. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it's your podcast after all.
Yeah.
So,
but I love you. I love your show, and
Thanks,
I think you're doing great work, man. And
thank you so much.
I got to have you over on my show too, so we can chat.
I would be honored, seriously, because you have a great podcast. That One Time on Tours is definitely one of the best podcasts in this genre of podcasts, So it's one of the ones that sticks out, I feel like, I mean, there's like, since I started this one almost 5 years ago, I think it's 5 years next week, which I may as well say 5 at this point.
Yeah.
There's so many more podcasts in the genre that have, come out. And I think, like I said, I think yours is in the top 10 or top 20, however many you can put out there. But I think that's one of the ones that kind of sticks up from the punk-esque scene.
Well, yours is right there with me, man. And I just got to say, you're fun to talk to. You're easy to talk to. I try to be that same way with my guests, so it's nice to talk to somebody that's kind of putting in the work like I do,
Yeah, that's my same philosophy here. I don't make it hard. Anytime I listen to a podcast and it's literally like question answer, I'm like, what are we doing? Why am I listening to this?
Like I've got a loose set of notes, maybe like a timeline, so if the conversation veers off somewhere, I can like get us back without big silence or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's many times when I have somebody on where I don't even look at my notes. When Mike was on and we started talking about music theory and he was playing a song on his guitar, like I maybe looked at my notes twice just to see when the new record came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like to prepare. So if there's a reason like, oh, well, hey, what about this? Because I don't like there to be these big gaps in the conversation, but it doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes you just talk to someone for an hour and it's awesome,
Well, sometimes you just don't know how it's going to go.
I just like to prepare. I mean, everything in my life, whether it's, any kind of job or any kind of school stuff, like I don't like being unprepared. So I'll take 2 pages of notes and not use them and then feel good about myself because I didn't have to use them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I feel the same exact way, man. When I end up not having to use them, I just feel good about it. I'm like, oh, man, I'm glad I didn't have to go to that point because usually that's when like it's an awkward conversation, it's just like, and it's just not flowing well. So like you got to use those notes now, and you're like, oh,
you gotta have your cheat sheet just in case. Like, I've had a couple guests. I've not had any bad guests. I've never had a guest where I didn't like air it or anything.
Same here.
But I mean, there's been a couple guys, I won't name any names because the episodes turned out really well, where at the beginning it was real slow and they were kind of like a little bit standoffish. And then you find some common thread or common ground with the guest, and then they open up. And I've been lucky enough that the few times that's happened, the podcast has ended very strongly, where at the beginning I'm like, this is unusable,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean on that. So It's good to know I'm not the only one who goes.
Dude, I bet you we could
goes
talk
for
for
that.
hours, man.
Oh, we certainly could.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that One Time on Tour podcast, check out Firesale, Spam Records, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Or did I say I said spam?
Dude, it's hard.
Spam.
That's I always said S-BAM, and then they said that was wrong. So I say spam, and then I spell it S-B-A-M.
I try not to. It's like I try to. I guess the reason why I say S-BAM is so that it sounds like I'm not saying spam.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Well, like the guy that started it, he does art. Stefan, he does art for like Green Day and Fall Out Boy and Blink and everything, and No Effects. Right. His name's Stefan Beham or Bayham.
Right.
So it's S-BAM. It just kind of made sense. So yeah, it's kind of. I always thought it was S-BAM, then I realized, oh, they're European, so it's spam. Sabam.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Sabam.
One of these days, I'm having him on the podcast. That's another one of those where our schedules keep not wanting to align. So
it took us a while. He was on my show, and we actually that's when we dropped the new Firesale single. It kind of was like synergy because he's on the show and they're releasing it. And yeah, it took a while because with him, being in Austria, lining up those times are tough. When I had been on from Silverchair, he's in Australia. I've had a couple of different guests on, Josh Mann from Paper Arms and Lindsay from Frenzelrom. It's always kind of weird because they'll send you send them like when you're available, knowing that it's going to be morning the next day for them.
Yeah.
And then trying to get everything together. The one time when I had Josh on, who's a good buddy of mine, it was actually going to be the singer for Firesale before Pedro signed on, which is pretty funny. Paper Arms is amazing. If you haven't heard him too, you got to check him out. But he is in somewhere in Australia, Adelaide, maybe. I can't remember where exactly, but we got our dates messed up because they're in the future. So he signed on at a different time than I did, and then I signed on, and it took a few weeks to kind of get the thing figured out. But now I do stuff with people from Australia all the time. It's weird when people are that far apart on time and trying to make it work,
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's super, super weird. So it's so.
And Australians don't like that joke. How's the future? Don't do that. I did it once, and I've not ever done it again.
I think I've only done 2 interviews with people from Australia. So 2 different, so not too many, but I've done quite a few from the UK.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But only 2 from Australia. So
well, the next time you do an Australian, don't say how's the future, because every time Jimmy Fallon has anybody on from Australia on Zoom or whatever, he's like, how's the future? And I stopped doing it.
Nice. I'll keep that in mind. I'm gonna make a mental note of that. So,
and all the Australian listeners out there will thank you for not making that joke.
They're already thanking us. They're clapping their hands. All right. Well, Chris, it's Swinney, right?
Yes, sir. Just like it looks.
Yeah.
Phonetically, yes.
Yeah. Or what? Swiss, right?
Swiss is what everybody calls me. That's been my nickname since high school. Like there are people when I used to tour full time in the industry and other bands and road guys and techs and whatever that don't know my actual name. There was a guy that my friend was like, hey, have you listened to Chris's podcast? He's like, Chris, Swiss. Oh, Swiss has a podcast? Like, it's weird. I don't know.
All right. Well, Swiss. I like Swiss. That sounds so cool.
That's my last name and my first name together.
Yeah, it goes perfect. I don't know if you could do it.
Synergy.
I don't know if we could do that with mine. That'd be like Jolamour or something like that.
I like
Jamour.
Le Jacques.
Le Jacques. There we go.
Le Jacques. There you go.
Le Jacques. I like that.
And we're gonna start a podcast where we talk about punk rock called the Le Jacques and Swiss Show.
Dude, that sounds like really good hot chocolate, kind of like the Swiss.
It does. People used to ask me all the time. They're like, "Are you Swiss? Are you like from Switzerland?" I'm like, "No, it's just my last name and my first name together."
Yeah. All right, man. Well, you have a great rest of the night, and
you too, man.
Thank you so much for doing this, everyone.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and just let me know. I would love to be on your show.
As soon as things calm down a little bit, probably next month, I'll hit you up. We'll get it going, man.
Yeah, please do. All right. Well, have a great night.
You too, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Once again, Chris Swinney from Firesale. And that One Time on Tour podcast, that was a pre-recorded interview I just did with him yesterday. Please check out his band Firesale. They're really good, and I really enjoyed the 2 singles they put out so far. And you can pre-order that 7-inch right now via SBAM Records, which sbam.rocks, I believe, is what Chris said once again, and it's SBAM Records. That's how it's spelt. And also thank you to our first guest, Meg, for joining us on the podcast. Her brand new EP, Here for Now, is available everywhere where you stream music, so please stream the hell out of that as well. And that wraps up this episode. I'm Jacques Lamour. Thank you to our title sponsor, Pop Punk Takeout. Make sure you sign up for your very own takeout box where you get pop punk merchandise delivered right to your door. In a takeout box, you can choose the pizza one or the Chinese takeout box. Delivered right to your door every single month. You can go to poppunktakeout.com to sign up, or and also, I should say, follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Pop Punk Takeout. And also, while you're doing that, follow Pop Punk and Pizza at Pop Punk Pizza Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can go to poppunkpizzapod.com, buy merch there, use the promo code POPPUNK to get $2 off your order, and also sign up for our mailing list while you're there. Drop us a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends, all that fun stuff. If you want to get more involved with other listeners of the podcast, we do have a Facebook group as well. Just search Pop Punk and Pizza Podcast on Facebook and you'll see the Facebook group come up. So the live stream happens every single Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. If you don't catch the live stream on our Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, you can listen on whichever podcast platform you prefer. On Thursday is when the episode gets put on podcast platforms. So have a great rest of the night or a great rest of the day, whatever time of day it is you're listening to this, and just know that I'm truly grateful and appreciative for all of your love and support. Things have been going super well for Pop Punk and Pizza and Lamour Media in a whole. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and send you lots of love. And let's remember to continue keeping our thoughts positive, because what we think we become. And I'll talk to you next week here on Pop Punk and Pizza.
Hey, hello, it's nice to meet ya. Hey, come in and have a slice of pizza. Hey, hello, it's nice to meet ya. Hey, come in and have a slice of pizza.